Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. This is The Couch. My name is Pratt. Thank you for staying with Pan-African TV, the best, simply the best TV station, ever. And this show happens to be the only TV show with a hat, Today, our conversations are two. Let me quickly run us through them. First, we start off with gender-based violence. Gender-based violence, it's a very important conversation that we would be getting into pretty shortly. And we also would have a conversation on the impact and importance of public sector management program to the growth and development of Africa. You know how we love Africa here at Pan-African TV, and we are so fixated on the development of the continent, particularly its people. So that's a conversation you really do not want to miss. My guests are here, they are seated, they are poised, they are glorious and happy to have this conversation. But first, we'll take a quick commercial break. Stay with us.
Are you searching for the perfect venue to host your next event? Look no further than Meres Event Plus. Discover the epitome of sophistication with our Skybox Event Center. This indoor marvel offers spacious hall area accommodating up to 500 esteemed guests. This beautifully designed space can be tailored to suit various event types, from weddings and corporate gatherings to cultural celebrations and more. We give you a kitchen space where your culinary creativity takes center stage, from gourmet feast to delectable treats. Our kitchen is the heart of flavor and delight. Our luxurious washrooms ensure comfort and convenience for all attendees, as well as maintaining the elegance of a special day. Our breathtaking waiting area is designed to make a lasting impression, while our top-of-the-range changing rooms are befitting of the VIPs of your event. Experience nature's charm at Tichiwa's grounds. Host an unforgettable outdoor event at the spacious and beautiful Tichiwa grounds, featuring a large lawn or terrace area capable of accommodating up to 700 cherished guests. Our changing rooms also provide privacy and ease for your special guests. Call us now on 030-341-6266 or 053-029-6067. Meres Event Plus, where celebrations come to life.
Welcome back to the show. This is The Couch, the only TV show with a hat. Tonight we are discussing gender-based violence, and I have my girl with me in the studio. One of the good peoples. She's here. Abna Biniwa Fusu. She's executive director. You bit to me. Hey boo. Hello.
Really nice to see you again.
I've been dragging you here forever. Why?
I've been all over the place causing trouble and getting insulted by Ghanaian men.
Do we care?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But it's great to finally have you here. It's great. Let's do some small recap, and then we come back to gender-based violence. You've been very active with sanitary pad, products and all of that. For those of you who watched all of those shows. I'm sure you saw Biniwa, live in action, with a billboard and all of that. Do you think we are making headway? Briefly, and then we come back. Do you think we are making any headway?
Yeah, policy-wise, we made a little headway. So in following our march, Speaker promised that he would do his best to get the taxes scrapped. In November, we went to Parliament to listen to the budget reading, and it was only the VAT on imported raw materials and also the VAT on the finished products made in Ghana that were scrapped. And so it's left us wondering, what do we do now? Because, this is part of the things we're asking for. Now you do this and you leave the taxes on the imported ones. And we know that the local industry currently doesn't have the capacity or isn't producing enough to service all of the menstruating women and girls in the country. So what do we do with that gap? So the conversation and the negotiating has been ongoing. In December, the CSO's platform on SDGs, which Ebitumi is part of, organized a meeting with, is it the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI? AGI. Yeah, we had a meeting with them, and they said, the budget was read and that was said, but there hasn't been a clear implementation strategy, so they are still trying to iron that out with the Ministry of Finance. Just last week, we had another meeting with them, and in that meeting, GRA was present, AGI was present, and we asked them, what's been happening? Why are parts still at the same price? Because the taxes were scrapped last year. And GRA said, oh, well, we've given them the go-ahead. We've fully implemented it. Parts are supposed to be cheaper now. We've stopped putting taxes on the imported raw materials, so everything should be good. And we turned to AGI. AGI, this is what GRA is saying.
Well, hello.
It's not, it's not reflecting. What are you saying? And then they told us, well, as at the time the policy was implemented, they had already imported goods that they were still using, and those are the goods they are still using. And so, although GRA has said this, they can't immediately implement it because the things they have now, the products they have now, were bought with the taxes. And so they can't. And another thing also was that, this is an interesting bit, that their members, which, so AGI, currently, the pad manufacturing companies in Ghana are two, the main ones, Fatex, and the one that produces proper, forgotten, Sunda. Yeah, so those are the main local manufacturers. So they have tried importing because they have mostly run out of the ones they had, the materials they had before the taxes were scrapped. They've tried importing, and customs is telling them that the concessionary tax, which is 5%, has been scrapped, but they still have to pay the VAT. And they are saying, no, per the budget reading, they're supposed to pay absolutely nothing. And so we go back to GRA, and the man says, yeah, that's the correct interpretation, that they should pay no tax at all. And so now the conclusion was that both GRA and AGI and RCSOs are going to go figure this out with the Ministry of Finance to see what's the proper implementation is, because it seems customs at the port isn't fully briefed, or I don't know if it's willful ignorance, or I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a mishap or a miscommunication. And so we are hoping that we planned to meet again by the end of next month to ensure that all parties are the same level or on the same page, and the policy can be properly implemented. So fingers crossed for how that goes.
Even the small concession, Beniwa, even the small concession, because we are hoping for a lot. Yeah. We got this, and even the small concession, the implementation of this small concession has become so dramatic.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that popped up was that the representative of AGI said, well, even if we still get these tax deductions, these taxes scrapped, there are other things that could still impact the cost of the parts.
This has been their position from the beginning.
Something like the CD depreciating, something like, he said there was currently a tax on emissions or something that they're trying to introduce, they would have to pay that tax as well. So that also impacts the cost. So it was looking like at the end of the day, there isn't going to be much relief.
This has been his position from the beginning.
Yeah.
I remember that engagement, and at Plan Ghana, I remember him saying directly to me. He said, "Well, you guys could, I was with Loretta and I think Makiza, and he said, you guys could, agitate all you want. They could scrap the taxes and the prices will not change." He said that. He said that. So I'm not surprised that at least something has been scrapped. And he insists that other factors will make sure that...
And I mentioned this to him. So are you saying that we may not get any, Ghanaian women may not get any relief at all? Because this is what you wanted the whole time. He said, yeah, like I was saying, other things could still impact the price of parts, and
it's shameful. I'm sorry that I always tend to jump from 0 to 100 on this issue. But the more we talk about it, it's shameful. It's what it is. It's really shameful that up until now, in spite of all the different levels of agitation, we've done everything that is possible. Letters, engagements, what's it called? Demonstration, what's it called? Placard parade. Anything you can think about. We've done everything doable. And yet the prices remain the same. And we are lobbying as well, behind the scenes. Yeah. And the prices remain the same. But anyway, we'll come back and have this conversation. The whole show for this conversation. Promise.
Yeah, definitely. No, we need like an hour. We need about an hour to get into this because
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Okay. Our conversation today, however, is on gender-based violence. This is one more passion, that you have. And listen, girl, I love your energy. I love what you do. No, I really do. So this is one more passion that you have. That's gender-based violence. Talk us through it. For a lot of us, we think that there are some aspects, and for those of us specifically in Ghana right now, we tend to think that these conversations are unnecessary. We seem to think that, gender-based violence in Ghana. I don't know if you have that sense. Yeah. When people have this position, what do you say to them?
I tell them to look around them, to analyze their perception or understanding of violence, because when somebody doesn't see something as violence, it's difficult for them to be aware of it. It's difficult for them to understand when you're telling them about it. So if, let's say, for example, somebody doesn't see anything with a man beating his wife as a disciplinary measure, it doesn't matter what you tell him. He will tell you, he's the husband. He has a right to do that. If you're a wife and you're not being obedient to your husband, the Bible permits him to discipline you. Our culture permits him to discipline you. So they don't see that as violence. So it's how violence has been normalized, culturally, religiously, socially, just generally normalized. It's done to the extent that people can't recognize violence even when they're looking at it. Because for them, it's not violence, it's just a normal thing.
Right. I think for me, the biggest thing would be how we raise our children.
Definitely.
I think that's where we get it wrong. Because for me, I can't be teaching my son today that when he does something I don't like, I slap him, right? And then suddenly, when he's in his 20s, me, the same person, go back and tell him that it's not okay to slap somebody when they do something that is not right. You've been slapping me my whole life.
Yeah.
Right? It's messaging. It's indoctrinating, isn't it? If I'm training my children, male and female, and when somebody does something wrong, you hit the person. And the person grows with this his whole life. At what point do you turn around and now come and tell him that when somebody does something you don't like, talk?
Exactly.
Were you talking to me my whole life? So for me, perhaps that's where we need to start these conversations from. But are we happy to have these conversations?
It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's also challenging because we are so used to this way of doing things. People don't want to move away from that. There is also the issue about the alternative. People don't know the alternative. Parents are so used to problematic gender roles and socialization of their children. Like you mentioned your son. It's very normal for boys to pull the hairs of girls they like. Right in nursery, kindergarten, they will pull their hair, they will push them, and when the girls go complain, the teacher will say, oh, it's because he likes you, right? So he grows up thinking that if I like a girl, I can abuse her, and it's okay because I like her. And girls grow up thinking that a man can love me and still abuse me. He's abusing me because he loves me. So from the beginning, you are teaching the boy it's okay to hate a girl you like, and you are teaching the girl it's okay for a man who says he likes you or loves you to hate you. And so that's how we have boys growing up feeling entitled to women's bodies, feeling like they have the right to discipline a woman regardless of the circumstance, even regardless of who she is to him. If I can discipline a woman I'm in love with, of course I can discipline my sister, I can discipline a stranger I see on the road, I can grope a woman I meet in the club, I can force myself on a woman who doesn't want me because I am a man and I have that right to women's body. So like you said, we need to start from the basics, from how we socialize boys and girls. We teach boys that expression of anger is masculine. It's like showing anger with violence is masculine. That's what makes you a man. Showing anger by being meek and trying to explain yourself and crying is what is feminine. So if you're a girl, if you're a boy, you can show anger by hitting things, hitting walls, hitting people, and that is fine. That's what makes you a man. And you teach girls that when a man is doing this, your response should be meek. Try not to anger him more. Try not to exert yourself. Try not to defend yourself. You are the meeker gender. Try to cry. Try talking him out of it. Just be nice. And so we are raising a generation of angry boys and very meek women who tolerate abuse. And like you said, that's where we start getting it wrong.
There's something you said earlier that really struck me. You said we don't know the alternative.
Yeah.
If I don't hit my son, what do I do with my son, right? If I don't, as a man, as a father, this issue about training differently. I've come back from work. My wife says, I've been waiting for you. He has done this. As a man, immediately my response has to be, manly. I have to be the one to shout, because we don't know the alternative.
Yeah.
And it's shocking because the alternative simply is being a parent.
Yeah.
Right?
Communicating.
Communicating. Talking to him like a human being,
yeah.
Which is really what he is. Not a man, not a girl, just a human being. You are raising human beings. How do we get around it, Beniwa? I think about this all the time. Like, what is so wrong with talking to your child?
Yeah.
Just communicating.
I say that at this point.
Let me add this and make it even more messy. They say you are spoiling the child.
That is it. They will tell you are spoiling the child. I have a friend, Mami, you've met her before. She has a son. And I remember that having a conversation, she was talking about how people see her with her son in spaces and people think she's spoiling the boy because she allows him to express himself. Like if she's in a space and the boy wants to say something to him, he can come, Mommy, this, Mommy, that's that. And they're like, your mother is with people, you don't have to come close to her. Like when adults are there, child should stay away. She's like, no, he's my son, he can talk to me whenever he wants to. He didn't interrupt anything, he came to me to ask to speak to me, that's okay. And so I say that it's up to us millennial parents. I'm not a parent, but I think because the older generation, they are very stuck in their ways. Also, a lot of them are not having children anymore. So it's really us millennials who are, having children more, are more exposed, have more access to technology that can help us learn alternative parenting. We have access to books, we have access to internet, we have access to all these coaches all over the place. It's up to us to make a conscious effort to learn alternative parenting. So instead of hating your child, how do you communicate with your child to let them know what they did is wrong, so we don't normalize violence? It's also really interesting because when we do this, they become traumatized people, and traumatized people traumatize other people. We are in a part of the world where therapy isn't a thing. If you go to therapy, people will tell you you're mentally unstable, you are mad. As therapy, there's a huge stigma around therapy, so there isn't even that environment for people to try to heal. So if you are a mother, if you are a father, if you are a parent, yours is to prevent the trauma from the beginning. Don't let it happen. Learn to teach your boys how to communicate their feelings instead of using violence. And we've also made communication feminine. It's women who talk. I was watching a video on TikTok this morning. There's a little boy who went home and was telling his mother, the girls talk too much. And the mother asked him, why? He said, yeah, in class, he said he doesn't like nursery, kindergarten, because the girls talk too much. They're always talking, they don't stop talking. And he asked, what about the boys? He said, the boys only talk when we have to. So the girls are always making noise and it's too loud. And people were laughing in the comments. And I was thinking to myself, this is how you bring up a generation of men who cannot communicate how they're feeling. You are teaching him talking is a girl's thing. This is what he's thinking. He comes home and as a parent, instead of you to teach him, that that's wrong, that anybody can be a talker, you just have to express how you're feeling. You are agreeing with him that, the girls are yapping, and that's the word a lot of them were using, the girls were yapping. And so we've made expressing yourself, expressing how you're feeling, feminine. And that's how we have a lot of men with emotions bottled up, and the only way of expressing it is through violence.
They explode.
Yeah.
They explode. And the other thing is that the yapping then becomes nagging.
Yeah.
This man will grow up, this boy would grow up, become a man. He has a wife, and already in his mind, women yap.
Yeah.
So anytime his wife is trying to have a conversation, there she goes again about to nag me.
And that's what a lot of the older men in the chats were, the comments were saying, that welcome to the world, man. It won't change even when you are an adult. That's how they are for the rest of their lives. How are we normalizing this?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if only we could just talk through issues. Isn't that so? I mean, the whole point is that, and we even have proverbs, local proverbs to say that no matter how big an issue is the mouth, and I'm trying to be literal here, it's the mouth that will be used to sort it out, And yet we ignore all of this old wisdom, and then we go straight to, how are we looking like as a country? Ghana, what are the statistics saying? Is there any information you could share? I mean, the rest of us who don't work in the field and who don't know much about this, how is Ghana looking? How are we performing? What's our character? What do we look like in terms of gender-based violence?
We are not doing great, unfortunately. The last national level survey that was done, the survey on domestic violence, was 2016. If there's a new one, I haven't seen that yet, and I stand to be corrected. But the most current one I have seen is the 2016 one, and that shows that 27.7% of Ghanaian women have experienced one form or the other.
27.7%. And these are the ones that are reported.
Yeah, these are the reported ones. But in 2020, there was another by UN Women that says that 24% of Ghanaian women have experienced intimate partner violence. I have some of the figures on my phone. I could read them or we could continue, but these are the general ones. And so that tells you that we are not doing great.
So, I mean, immediately I'm alarmed. I'm alarmed because the women, it takes a special kind of woman to go and report. It takes a very special kind of woman, you know, to go and report violence. So if we are ranging in the 20s, and 27 is pretty high, 27.7, that's almost 28%.
Yeah.
That's
almost half.
You know what, do you understand my alarm? Because the average Ghanaian woman would keep it to herself. You know, even those of us who claim we are enlightened and educated, and even us,
we don't.
I mean, how do I go and say anywhere that my husband hits me, right? So even us on this level are, so like I'm saying, it takes a special kind of woman and grave circumstances for a woman to go, very grave circumstances for a woman to go out and report. So if even those special kind of women are in the 27th percent, my goodness.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned, these are only the reported cases, right? And even those are like very grave circumstances that will force a woman to go and report. I know women in my personal close circles who are every now and then physically abused by their partners. And these are not even men they're married to, like just men they are dating. Yesterday, one of my friends was telling me about one incident that happened. They were trying to see how to go around it. So it's the verbal abuse. And when we talk about abuse, people always think it's the physical abuse. There's a verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's a financial abuse, there is a sexual abuse. Boyfriends feel because we are dating, I can have sex with you at any time and you cannot say no, it should happen. In marriages, husbands, and the thing that irks me the most about marital rape is that they think it's not a thing. Like, I am married to you, I have paid your bride price.
You are mine.
You are mine.
Literally,
right? I've bought you. And so they're always fighting against the phrase marital rape, because for them it doesn't exist. If I've married you, you should be available to me, and if you say no and I do it by force, it's not rape. You're my wife. It cannot be rape. And so wives are not reporting these. A lot of the time also the women don't see anything wrong with it. They've accepted that I'm his. Even if I don't want it, I have to do it. So if he takes it, he's just taking what's his anyways. It's not rape. And so yeah, the figures are alarming. You think that for a country that has these figures will be more proactive about ending it, but no, we have a Domestic Violence Act that is poorly funded, and there's been calls for government to put more money into that, and we all know how that has gone. You know, it doesn't have enough funding, and so women, when they're sexually abused, a lot of the time have to go and pay for when you go to the police station to report, they are going to need a doctor's report, and to get this report you need to pay. Imagine being sexually abused and you have to open yourself up to be examined by a doctor, and you have to pay for that. And a lot of these women who get abused, and sometimes it's even little girls, it's teenage girls, it's women from very low income communities who can't even afford a 3-square meal. So where is she going to find the money to go get this report so she can come to the police station and make a case for herself or her daughter or whoever it is that has been abused? And so they go to the police station, they hear this, and they go back home and they never go back because they don't have the money. But if this act is properly funded and survivors don't have to pay this money to get this report, it will make it much easier for those who dare to report to actually go through the process and get some justice. But it isn't. And we have law enforcement personnel and agencies who themselves contribute to this problem. So we have sex workers who would just be randomly rounded up by policemen under the guise of arresting them because sex work is illegal in Ghana, and they would take them in, and they themselves would take the money that the women have gotten that night. They would take these monies from them, and some of them, and we've had reported cases. 2 weeks ago I had a conversation with a lady who works with sex workers, and she spoke about how some of them would abuse the sex workers. They would sleep with them. They would tell them, okay, we either, I either arrest you or you let me sleep with you. And they don't have the money. They don't want to be arrested, and so of course they'll give themselves up. And this isn't it's not something they do willingly. You're basically coercing them into doing it. So that in itself is abuse. And all of this is happening, and we still have this very I will still call it willful ignorance, because when something is abusive, you don't have to be extremely educated to know that what I'm seeing is abuse, right? And so there's that bigger societal willful ignorance around issues of abuse. There is law enforcement that's supposed to help, not helping. Some of them are the ones asking survivors to go home and settle the case at home. You have a 28, 30, 40-year-old uncle raping his 10-year, 15-year, 7-year-old niece, and you have law enforcement telling them this is a family thing, take it home and settle it at home. And so he goes scot-free. Whatever trauma the child is left with stays with that child, and everybody goes back to their life.
And he will do it again.
Exactly. He will do it again, and you're also sending a message to the other abusers that it's okay, you can do it and you'll still be fine, nothing will happen to you.
Which is my next thing. I mean, we've been having these conversations, right? I can't, I've lost count of how many times I've had conversations like these, but ultimately, I mean, where's the and I find myself asking this question all the time. Why is the collective outrage?
Yeah.
But because it sounds like a few people are the ones angry on behalf of everybody else.
Yeah.
Sometimes even the ones that are themselves, and we don't like to use the word victims, but in this instance, perhaps even the ones that are themselves going through this, enduring these things, they would look at you strangely, you're the one that's trying to, because there's no collective outrage. We are angry about unnecessary things in this country, but the things that, and I like what you say about humanity, because it's not about education, it's not about class, it's just about your humanity. What you wouldn't like done to you, why do you think it's okay? I mean, if you don't like the feeling, why would you? And it's a basic thing I do with kids. For instance, I'm calling you, you don't mind me. When you call me, I don't mind. And I asked you, how did that feel like? Did you like the feeling? If you didn't like the feeling, why would you think that I would like that feeling? Right? So, I mean, and this is a question, is a statement, I don't know what it is, but how you've been in this field for a while. How do you think we should come at this? Is it the laws? Should we make the punishments stiffer? Should we, I mean, what's the way around this?
Right. The way around is going back to the basics, like how we started this conversation. That's one way around it.
Take it back to the homes.
We need to go back to the homes. We need to, parents need to raise their children. Oh.
Sorry, baby.
Thank God this is recorded.
Sorry.
What was I saying?
Parents
need to train their children differently than how we've been raised. Socialization has to change. That's how we socialize our children has to change. We have to teach boys to respect girls, teach boys that being masculinity doesn't equate to violence, it doesn't equate to machoism, it doesn't equate to power and ownership. Teach girls that femininity doesn't mean meekness, it doesn't mean tolerating violence, it doesn't mean giving up your autonomy. Teach girls bodily autonomy. Teach them they can say no. Teach them they can say yes when they want to. It's basically about changing the way we socialize our boys and girls. It's about looking at pop culture, the things that influences us. Because parents can do their bit. When they come into the society and they're exposed to music, movies, news, TV programming, adverts. There are some very problematic adverts. You have adverts that are teaching, and all of these food adverts, It's always the woman cooking, the mother is cooking, and the father and the boys are playing football, and the food is done and they come and eat. It's the girl in the kitchen with them. Adverts, music especially. This week I went to sit on TV last week and said that we were talking about this earlier, that Obo's Konkontiba song promotes pedophilia and that song should be banned. The insult I have received, if insult could kill, I wouldn't make it here today. I'll be dead.
And I was telling you how I am shocked by that.
Yeah.
Because this is a call I've been making forever. Any chance I get, I call out that song.
Yeah.
Because it's a very problematic song.
Extremely problematic.
Where do you say?
Yeah.
Now song,
yeah.
That song is terrible.
From beginning to end, everything about that song is problematic. It promotes pedophilia. There's a part of the song where it says or something like that. And I'm like, so you're not only saying pedophilia is okay, you have personalized it. So you are boldly telling men, you are likening little girls to mangoes, you are likening little girls to tadpoles. You are telling men it's okay to groom little girls and sleep with them. This is basically what you're saying. What's interesting is that a song that is the direct opposite of this song is Miss Bell 16 Years. It's the direct opposite of this song, but she caught smoke for her song. People insulted her for promoting 16-year-olds dressing like adults. That's what they got from the song. In this song, even Castro, who was featured, rest his soul if he's indeed passed, even in that song, he says, men kada washini kawaya or when you know I say what's over waju, right? He mentions that time Dopsu was waju. He mentions that when she goes to report, you'll be taken to waju and you'll be arrested. So they're both he and Miss Bell are basically saying that pedophilia is wrong.
A child is a child.
Exactly. She's a child.
I will look like this because I'm 16. I will have breasts. I'm 16. I will have a rounded figure because I am 16. But if you touch me, it's wrong.
Yeah. And people came for her for saying that 16-year-olds could look like adults. They were saying, oh yeah, why are you saying she could look like adults? Not focusing on the message that even though she's 16, she's still and she looks like an adult, she may dress like an adult, but she is still a child. And the people who have been insulting me since last week have been telling me legally 16-year-olds can consent to sex. And I said, okay, but does that make it okay? She's still a child. What does a 16-year-old know? We live in a society where we don't teach girls about their sexual and reproductive health. Even women in their 30s, I've met women in their 30s who don't know how their menstrual cycle works. Because these things are not taught.
Taboo.
It's a taboo. So how do you expect a 16-year-old to know any better? She doesn't. She's an adolescent. She's going through puberty changes. She's feeling all these ovulation horniness. She wants to belong, because we've made it look like if you're a 16-year-old and you can be with adult men, you belong. That shows you're matured. And they crave that. They want that recognition that they're matured, they're adults, they want to belong. It's an adolescent thing. She doesn't really want to be with an adult. She doesn't even know herself. She doesn't know what she's asking for. And so all of them are saying it's the 16-year-olds who are always chasing the older men. She doesn't know any better. And you, the adult who knows better, are the one who's supposed to stay away from her, protect her. But you are rather reeling her in because it fits your own pedophilic agenda.
I don't know why we don't like calling a spade what it is. You see,
because we're hypocrites
and I was asking you,
we are abusers.
What's the problem? It's a word that describes something. If I call you a pedophile as an adult who likes young children, I'm not insulting you. I'm telling you what you are.
Exactly.
That's why the word exists. It's like looking at you, Beniwa, with all your perfectly formed features and saying, Beniwa, you are beautiful. It's the word for it. That's the word for it.
Exactly.
So if I call you a pedophile for being a pedophile, you check yourself. You don't check me.
Yeah.
You check yourself.
Exactly.
And your preference for little girls, when grown women are all over the place. I mean...
They said the grown women have been run through
By them.
That's what they've been calling me this week. They said I've been run through and I'm bitter. That's what I'm saying. They can't date the little girls because I'm bitter. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But you know, it would get better because we will do better. And I've been thinking about this whole time. Once you know better, you do better. When you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
But once you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And you know, I love that. It's like there's an awakening, you know, even within our traditional setup. And I'm referencing what happened with the Wulome and the gas state. You know, now there's some kind of awakening. When we see it, we call it out.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. That gives me hope, you know, that, I mean, the explanations can come. The explanations may be valid or may not be valid, right? But when we see it, we call it out. And I wish that all of us would do that within our communities. You know, if you see a grown man grooming a child, then you call it out.
Yeah.
You call it out. This is wrong. This is not traditional. It's not traditional. It's not cultural. It's not spiritual. It's not ritual. It's pedophilia. That's what it is.
So the ones who called my wife. How is a little girl your wife? A grown man.
Unbelievable. You have a project coming up. I want us to go there before we forget. You have let's talk about your project on gender-based violence.
Yeah. So Yebetumi is running a 3-month project as part of our International Women's Day activities, and it's mainly about ending violence against women. So we've themed it solidarity against sexual and gender-based violence. So far, we've had community debates, we've had workshops, we have a podcast that's currently running. Our 4th episode came out yesterday, so we have about 3 more episodes to come. This conversation is part of those activities, and we are mainly talking about how violence affects women from different demographics. So we're talking about women with disabilities, we are talking about queer women, we are talking about female sex workers, we are talking about women from low-income communities, women from all the different demographics, even non-binary women, how. Well, non-binary, okay, let's not get into that. But just how, that would be a long conversation. But generally, how violence, affects all these women from these women, I mean, the different demographics of women and women as a bigger demographic, and how as individuals, as a society, and as a country, we can speedily, quickly end all these forms of violence so women can live in dignity, women can live without fear, women can live to their fullest potential, because if a girl is getting sexually abused, it's costing her some part of her life. If a woman is getting abused, it's impacting her life, all aspects of her life. And so we want women to not be afraid to step out. We want wives to not be afraid of their partners. We don't want women to see marriages as a death sentence. We don't want women seeking employment to be abused at the workplace, or even before they are hired. We want girls to be able to stay in school without being abused in any way. And we want women to just generally feel free to wear what they want to wear, to speak how they want to speak, to present themselves how they want to present themselves, to define who they are in society and wherever they find themselves without any fear or intimidation.
Are you hopeful we can get there?
It will take a while. Gauging how things are happening and the feedback we get when we have these conversations, it's a long way ahead, but that's why we are fighting, right? We're hoping to get to the finish line.
Small.
That's what they say, right?
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We will get there. But you know, as we are calling out the men, and I love the way you ended, as we are calling out the men, I love the fact that we're emboldening the girls.
Yeah.
You know, as we call out the men, we embolden the girls, and we say that, speak out.
Yeah.
Speak out. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You don't like it. There's this saying, I remember sometime when I was doing my national service at Commercial Bank, I remember one of the elderly women saying to me that as a woman, if you are too assertive, you can't be loved. And I remember thinking,
that's a lie we are feeding little girls.
Right?
Yeah. We teach them not to be outspoken. We teach them to hide their voice. And when you do that, when they are abused, they won't say it, because you've taught them not to use their voice. You've taken their autonomy from them. And so when they get to the point where they're getting abused and they say, oh, why didn't you report it? Well, you've been telling me my whole life I shouldn't speak. So why will I speak now?
We will get there. We'll get there. Thank you very much. Final words. Final words.
Abuse isn't justifiable under any circumstance. It doesn't matter how a woman spoke. It doesn't matter how she's dressed. It doesn't matter how she carries herself. It doesn't matter what she does for work. It doesn't matter her socioeconomic status. Nothing justifies abuse. Women are full human beings with dignity, with the same rights as men, and any form of violence against women is wrong. We are telling men that women aren't your properties, no matter how they are related to you. Treat any woman how you'd want your sister, your brother, your sister, your mother, yourself to be treated. And I hate to say, to say this, because we don't want men to only respect women based on their proximity to them. But that's how men understand how to treat women. Like, oh, okay, if I don't do this to my sister, then I shouldn't do this to this woman. But we're also telling women that it's not okay to be abused. It's not okay. It doesn't matter what you did. You don't deserve to be abused in any way. And if anyone abuses you, go report the person. You have a right to self-defense. You have a right to your body autonomy. Nobody should touch you without your consent. And if it ever happens to you, even if it's just insult, please go report this person. There is a law that protects you, and make sure that that right is respected.
Thank you. Thank you, Beneva. Thank you. Thank you so much for. Thank you. Small. We'll get there. Small. And once we know better, we do better. Please don't go away. Next conversation continues. Stay with us. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. This is The Couch. My name is Pratt. This is Pan-African TV, and we are right here, in Abilingbe. We are broadcasting to over 44 countries, across the continent. So many other countries, so many more across the globe due to RCS. Lovely Tuesday evening. You know that on Tuesdays we have, our social issue conversations, our lifestyle issue conversations. It's been a while. We brought in our lawyer, thinker, coach, to have those meaningful conversations that are necessary for personal growth, and I call it community growth, if that makes any sense. Well, today he's back. And tonight our conversation is on harnessing the various multi-dimensions of intelligence. Good stuff, right? Great stuff. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to the show. We have been joined, by lawyer, thinker, coach, D. Theodore Albright.
Good evening and welcome to my show.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be back.
It's great to have you back.
It's been too long.
Yes. You've been traveling?
Yes, I have been. I've been traveling.
Oh, wow.
But I'm back now. So,
Good.
yeah, I'm really delighted to be back here this evening. And let's see how things go.
I know that things are going to go absolutely awesome.
Yes.
Like, no doubt in my mind.
Super, super.
So, harnessing the various multi-dimensions of intelligence.
Yeah.
I want us to break down the multi-dimensions of intelligence
Yeah.
first.
Yes.
Then we can come to how we can harness.
Yeah.
So let's start from there. What are the multi-dimensions of intelligence?
So typically when you go to school or you're being tested education-wise, the first thing that pops up is IQ, intelligence quotient. And so most of us are graded on our IQ, intelligence quotient. Now the issue here is that IQ, or the test itself, is rooted in a particular cultural mindset. Okay, and not only is it culturally monopolized, but it doesn't cut across different cultures and different races and different nations. That is one issue there. Add to that, it is so scripted that often is offered linguistically and mathematically, and that's about it, and maybe some verbal reasoning. Now, if you can imagine somebody who lives in the Amazon jungle, who by his or her wits manages to outwit the lion and the jaguar and the crocodile, are you saying to me that such a person, because they fail an IQ test, lacks intelligence? And so Howard Gardner, an academic, after some research, came out and said, look, I don't think the intelligence quotient captures all the intelligences that exist. And then he came out with a whole battery of intelligences. So he says that we have musical intelligence. Now, how do you measure musical intelligence with IQ? He says we have mathematical intelligence or logical intelligence that will be captured by IQ. But intrapersonal skills, intrapersonal intelligence, i.e. being self-aware and self-reflective, is not caught by your traditional IQ, nor is interpersonal, which we would call EQ, which is emotional intelligence. And then kinesthetic intelligence, where you're more tactile than verbal, reasoning, and mathematical. So he came up with a whole battery of different dimensions to intelligence and said we should not isolate intelligence to just logical reasoning and mathematical ability. And there is this apocryphal saying that if you ask a fish to ride a bicycle, it would appear stupid. But if you put the fish in water, it will become brilliant. So contextually, IQ does not address all contexts across board. And we now need to look for a variety of intelligences if we are going to measure a person's intelligence.
Absolutely. The beauty of what you say, for me, reflects right now today. The world in which we exist today, you need that multiplicity of intelligence to be able to flourish.
Indeed, yes.
So to speak. So, for instance, at the layman's, level, that would be me. At my level, we normally say, oh, there's book knowledge.
Yes.
And then there's just common sense.
Yes.
Right? But it's broader than that. There's so much more. There's so much more. For instance, I think a couple of years back, in one of our Bastima summits, we had the HR director of one of these huge multinational companies, explain about the things they look out for in employing presently. That in the past, it just used to be appearing in a suit.
Yes.
And having an awesome CV where your certification says first class in that, second class in that.
Indeed.
That. But he said, it's moved away from that. Now they want to look at the things that, all the other things you speak about,
kinesthetic, logical, interpersonal, intrapersonal.
Right. Your ability to work in a team.
Yes,
your
indeed.
ability to
self-motivate. Yeah, self-motivate. Yeah.
Right. Your ability to, attitude.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That will form under one of these.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah.
So presently, it's not enough to say I got a first class. You need to show that you are a full rounded human being.
Yes, indeed.
With all the other, intelligences that exist. So then hence this conversation.
Absolutely. And let me share a story with you. So
right.
I had some engagement with a friend, and I was speaking by analogy. And this friend is fairly clever, but mathematically clever, and therefore missed the fact that I was communicating by analogy and took the analogy literally. Okay, so you can be very clever mathematically and not be able to get metaphors and analogies and typologies, and that is a shame. And then you have people who are very street wise. They may not have book knowledge per se, but you put them on the street and they can hustle their way almost anywhere because they have the ability to engage and direct their lives. And you might put a intellectually book smart, i.e. mathematical and verbal reasoning genius on the streets of Ghana and them not be able to find their way. So it is important that we come to a position where we are able to identify the different types of intelligence and then feed and grow those intelligences in the respective individuals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's why you could meet somebody who is so smart and yet can't seem to fit into any kind of, it's so awkward, it's so socially awkward and all.
Yes.
But let's come to the word harness. This multi-dimensions of intelligence. I don't know how we should. So first of all, can you give us perhaps some tips on being, so that we can identify the various types they are to start with.
Yeah.
Then we can come to each one and how you can, sort of milk that side as well. So generally, as a human being, I'm guessing not everybody that's watching the show is at a level of comprehension, and they can, even if they haven't done in the past, can from now start to have a presence of mind. How are you aware, or how are you in tune to all the various dimensions of intelligence they are, and how do you position yourself such that you can tap into all of them?
Okay. The starting point is that every ability or trait or skill or knowledge can be elevated into an art form. Every ability. So whether it's cooking, whether it's dancing, whether it's drumming, whether it's speaking, it can be elevated into an art form. And therefore, we should not cut short all of those avenues that come to us as individuals. That is the first thing. The second thing is that when I was growing up, anytime there was an engagement and I felt that I could contribute as a child, and I put my hand up and say, meaning, that became an issue. We are too known. So we stifle genius by those words. We are too known. We are meaning, too much. So while other nations celebrate child prodigies and geniuses, we submerge them and suffuse them and suffocate them. And so that expression, whether it be in conversation, whether it be in music, whether it be in dance, whether it be in engaging, we cut it off. And so my plea to parents and to individuals and to teachers is to encourage every avenue of expression. Every avenue. Whether the person is funny, jokey, if the person is loud in class, it means they're an extrovert. And so why do you say you want to write down names of talkatives? The person has a talking ability. And let me share this. Tony Blair, when he left Downing Street in his first year of not being Prime Minister, earned $18 million from speaking engagements. And you're stifling a child by writing down talkatives. A child who is expressive is trying to tell you something. And so, what am I saying? I'm saying every avenue of expression can be elevated into an art form. And we shouldn't wait, for the white man to identify it and bundle it for it to become precious before we let our children go and play hockey or football or swim or speak or write or dance. All of those are traits that can be elevated. The knowledge that can be elevated is skill that can be elevated.
I love that. So, I mean, what it means is that allow all forms of expression.
Yes.
All forms of expression.
All forms of expression.
Encourage all forms of expression.
Yes.
Okay.
So it could be art. Some people will just stay in the corner and draw cartoons. Hey, that could be the next Disney. All right? Some people will paint. That could be the next Picasso. Some people will rap or rhyme. That could be the next Jay-Z or Fuse ODG. Somebody will be drumming a rhythm. That could be the next Osibisa.
Allow it.
Allow it.
Allow it. But you see, for me, the beauty is that even if it's not the next Fuse ODG, it alerts you that this person is gifted this way.
Yes.
And it's a form of intelligence.
And it's a form of intelligence.
It's a form of intelligence.
Yeah.
It's a form of intelligence. Okay. So now I want us to pick them one after the other. Let's start with musical intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, when we think musical intelligence, like I'm saying, we are thinking Fuse ODG.
Yeah.
Is that all there is to it? Somebody that can sing or drum, or is that all there is?
No. I mean, music has a structure. And music has a style. And music is mathematical in nature. And so there's rhythm and there is a beat and there is inquiry and there's curiosity. All of that fuses together to give you music. Remember, music is as much the noise you make as much as the silences between the notes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
Right.
Do. Without the silences, you will not have any rhythmic structure. Okay. And you can draw it from anywhere. And by the way, children in vitro can hear sound. So you can begin to develop your child in vitro by introducing them to music that you like. And then it creates a structure in their heads, their minds, their brains. And so just as people are engineeringly minded, so people are musically minded. And the range is playing an instrument, composing, rapping, poetry. In fact, sometimes the musicality comes not in poetry, but in prose. So you can read words and find music in words. And you can find music in shapes. I'm being very abstract here. And you can find music in the way that the bird, glides on the thermals. And you can see music in when the wind blows and the way the palm trees just bend in the breeze. All of that is music. It's by the sway of her hips. It's by the hissing of her and it's by the way she flutters her eyelashes. All of that has rhythm and a beat and music to it.
And it's so crucial to life, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Absolutely crucial to life. Because what's an existence, if it's all the tangibles, right?
Yeah.
What sad existence would that be if you can't appreciate the things you can't?
And the beauty of music is that you have a cacophony, you have this mixture of sound soup, which then is able to stir emotion in you.
Once you got emotion, let's bring it interpersonal.
Yeah.
Interpersonal. For me, the hardest part of that is, of course, that self-awareness, self-reflection, because that's where it starts.
Yes.
For yourself.
Yes.
But throwing motherhood, and it's compounded. Because is the first point for a child, isn't it? The home.
Yes.
Things like empathy.
Yes.
And what's the other one I'm looking for? Maybe socializing. How do you impart that? I don't know if I'm making...
Yeah, you do. You do. So remember, we're about 30% nurture, 50% environment, or what we do for our 30% nurture, I beg your pardon, 50% nurture, what we do, and 50% nature. And of that 50% nurture, about 20% is culture, socialization, and 30% will be the choices we make. Now, if you create an environment which is colorful and loud and musical and allows the child to inquire and be curious, that child will grow up being a curious child, by and large, because of nature. If you're restrictive and jai, menkoha, do this, do that, that child will internalize that, and that is how they will come across. So we as parents, and indeed as individuals, need to be very intentional about the environment we create. When a Brony man has children, they give them toys, playthings, because play is the way by which the child is able to express themselves, okay, and find meaning in their environment. We, unless you're middle class or upper class, typically ta-ta, and there is a starvation in terms of the environment, and that starvation is only sated when the child goes to nursery. And that's why when you go to nursery, there are numbers all over the place, colors all over the place, because that is supposed to stimulate imagination and curiosity. But we can do it in the home. We can do it in the home. And so typically a child's bedroom is all color, all shapes, all noises, so that the child can get used to a variety of triggers, variety of influences coming in.
I'm staying on empathy. And I'll give you a classic example. So this is about play.
Yeah.
I'm observing a bunch of kids, age, let's say 7 to 3, playing with water guns. And they're playing armed robbery, the armed robber and the policeman, and somehow they turn the play to me. And instantly I sort of flip it around. So I'm like, I'm supposed to be attacked, by one of them, and the other one is a policeman, and all of that. And I start, pretending to cry. I'm an old woman. I'm sick. I'm in my house, and you guys are here trying to rob me, and instantly I see the shift.
Yes.
Instantly.
Yes.
I've ruined the game.
Yes.
Because these kids are, oh, we are sorry, take the gun. If somebody comes, use the gun to,
shook his eye.
Report us, call the police, report us, right? And in the moment I'm thinking about all of this, and I'm thinking, surely I can see the positives. These kids, they have feelings, they are empathic, which is a great thing. But there are parents who insist that you overdo that and you create misfits who are not ready for the world. Like this world is about to swallow them whole, because they need to grow some backbone and they need to. How do you navigate that? That really is, because interpersonal intelligence is about that. It's about an appreciation of self, but it's also an appreciation of others, and your ability to navigate those fine lines. Okay. Am I overthinking?
No, you're not overthinking. You're right. So starting point, remember, is that we are, first of all, we act by instinct and reflex. Then on a major scale, we are emotional before we become rational. Okay? We are emotional before we become rational. So initially, it'll be reflex action. But after that, we are emotional and then rational. And the world is hard enough. So you do not need to overcreate the harshness of the world, because we will all meet it. But you can socialize the child by what you say and what you do, and create space for the child to be themselves. Because if the child is any other than themselves, then they will be acting suboptimally. Okay, and when I say any other than themselves, remember that we have traits and we have personality types, and those personality types feed into how we will react on a given day and in a given situation. Truth be told, at 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, it's very difficult to assess what sort of personality type that person will eventually end up being. Needless to say, we can grow into and out of our personality types with emotional intelligence and self-awareness. But confidence in the home allows the child to be. Confidence in the home is important. So where the child lacks confidence in the home, they won't find confidence anywhere else, because the home is supposed to be their safe haven. So create a safe haven, yes. You can experiment from time to time, yes, but the child or the individual must know that this is their safe haven. It's like the child running to mommy or the child running to daddy.
Right. How about the big one, socializing? Even, I mean, I still struggle with that.
Okay.
You know, I've said this before, and it didn't go down too well. There are circumstances in which I dread networking.
Okay. All right.
How do you, as a person, even as a full adult, harness, you know, that intelligence so that you can flourish in social settings, you can socialize, you know, to the best of your... And I see you smile because you are just excellent at it.
I wish I were. You know, I know somebody who is far better at it than I am. You know, my creative director, Johnny Taylor.
Oh, yes.
He is ace.
Right.
Ace. You know, I watch him, I envy him, in quotes, because he is relentless in his ability to network. But that is also a skill. That we learn, and the key to networking really is to let the other person talk. Some people are reticent when it comes to being able to talk, but if you inquire of the other person, tell me about yourself. So normally my opening conversation, apart from name and what you do, is what do you do for fun? Because clearly this is an avenue that you enjoy, and then we go on that journey on what you do for fun. And that allows you to, you know, travel with that individual or those individuals.
So what I'm picking from this is that then you sort of it's like a ball, but you give it back.
Oh, all the time.
You give it.
All the time.
You give it.
You know, you pass the ball back to the other person, and you let the other person talk like you're making me do now. You let the other person talk. And if the person is a talker, bloody hell, they'll talk all day and all night. And if the person is not a talker, you can corner them in their area of love. So some people love to bake. Oh, they'll tell you about the different icings, the different types of biscuits, scones, cakes, breads. They can, you know, and you can go on a journey on that. Some people like to write. Some people like to sleep. Even that, you know, why do you sleep? How do you sleep? When do you sleep? What do you do when you're sleeping? Do you read? Is it cold? Is it warm? You know, what's the best sleep you've ever had? So you can have a whole conversation, right, you know, and it shouldn't be a monologue.
Right. There's a question though, and quick question, then we come back. What would you say would be the main difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal? Because I heard you say both.
Yeah. So interpersonal is you and I. Intrapersonal is self-awareness. And some people are so self-aware, they're able to assess that being present at every given opportunity, being mindful at every given opportunity, and beyond that, noticing the effect they have on other people.
That's a superpower.
Yes.
How do I get there? How do I get to the point where I'm in the moment every minute of my 24 hours a day? How do I do that? Because the moments I'm just going to forget myself. The moments I'm going to chill. How are you in the moment, present for every mundane? And life has so many mundanes, like eating, like sleeping. Like when you said the best sleep, I'm like, the best sleep. Who thinks about sleep? Right? How do you harness your power such that you are present through it all?
3 things you can do. The first thing is you can carry worry beads, like rosary, and when you have those around you and you're flipping them, it makes you know that you're present. You've got something cold in your hand, or it could be some other object. The second thing you can do is just put your thumbs here on your finger and just squeeze. And at every stage, you know you're alive. Just that. And if you do that frequently enough, you'll be present right here. The third thing, which is critical, is reflection and journaling. Because that allows you to relive the moments. And those moments you love, you can live them again and again, because you can play a positive video in your head. So you had a wonderful dinner. You know, you can think about the dinner, you can think about the food, the mood, the drinks, the people, the company, and it allows you to relive the whole engagement. Means you're present.
Absolutely.
So being self-aware can be an intentional objective on your part. Simply by having your thumbs on your fingers like this and sitting there like that.
Absolutely. And often when I bring up this, there are people who look at me, I kid you not, a bit funny, and they don't seem to get why it's so important.
Yeah.
This is about living in the moment and being present in the moment. It's everything. It's the difference between, how do I even say this? The difference between, so we say that life is about moments, isn't it? It's the difference between saying A or saying B, when saying A could completely change your life, and saying B would let you stay, I don't know, like in the moment, you're having an argument with your neighbor. It's in the realizing that this is the moment. This is not just another day, another annoyance, another, it's realizing that this one is special. That can either make you say something that could change your relationship forever, or say something that could, keep the status quo, perhaps, of you being at loggerheads for life, or, it's in making every moment life altering.
Yeah.
Right.
So, our lives, the greatest tragedy known to man is that we celebrate our birthdays once a year. So we wait 365 or sometimes 366 days before we become cognizant that we are human beings and we are growing. But when you disaggregate the year, you have quarters, and you have months, and you have weeks, and you have days, and you have hours, and you have minutes, and you have seconds, and you have degrees. The greater you are able to harness each of the minutes and the hours, the more fruitful your life will be, because you'll be living slice by slice of every moment of your life. Most of us will only get 100 years, which is 876,000 hours. Can you imagine that you only focus once a year out of the 876 hours? It means in total you are spending 2,400 hours. That's all. Out of the 876,000 hours being present.
Right.
So our lives consist of seconds, minutes, hours, days, and years. And it is by taking hold and being present of the minutes and the hours that we make our life count?
I was having a conversation with the Palestinian ambassador to Ghana.
Yeah.
And he was explaining to me that, when they first got to Ghana, he took his family to the beach. And at the beach, they sort of bought fish, live, fresh fish, directly pointed, given to them. They took the fish home and, prepared the fish, cooked the fish, and they ate. And as he was saying this to me, he was getting so emotional, right? About what a joy that experience was and the beauty of that experience. And, Ghana girl, I was just looking at him like, okay, so you went to the beach and you bought fish and you cooked fish. But then when he put it in context for me and explained to me life as he knew it from his home, and what this war means, what it means to wake up every day and live and exist, and how nature is such a joy. I just realized that perhaps that's a whole, what's the word I'm looking for, that we just take for granted, right?
Yes.
And as I for this topic, as I Googled the multi-dimensions of it, I realized that there was also just
nature, yeah.
As a whole.
Yeah. Being intelligent about nature is one.
Trees,
Yeah.
water.
Yes. Yeah.
The environment.
Environment, yes. Yeah. Yes. And you see, when you tailor and conscript and restrict us to one form of intelligence, it means you do away with all the other intelligences. So like I said, the man in the Amazon jungle who has intelligence about nature, which tree is good, which leaf is good, which herb will cure you, his or her intelligence is completely valueless unless we open the gates and we say there are multiple intelligences. So when you look at some of our symbols, Sankofa, there was wisdom in there. When my mother comes up with these old tree proverbs, it's replete with wisdom. We're not stupid. Mm-mm. The fact that you can't speak English doesn't make you stupid. Your intelligence is of a different kind. And I find it quite ironic when I see Europeans singing Ghanaian songs in Twi or Ga, and we are applauding. And I'm thinking, all 33 million of us speak English. We ought to be applauded. Yes, the language is a currency of exchange, granted. But that does not devalue the carver's ability to carve, the farmer's ability to farm, the dancer's ability to dance, the singer's ability to sing. It doesn't. And it's about time that we gave value to all of these things. In fact, in Ghana, it is said that Ghana for Kasa. It seems God has given us a gift, the gift of Barack Obama. We are able to speak eloquently about many things. Aka application, But there you are. That is a gift that we have.
Right. My last question. I see my producer trying to get my attention. Existential intelligence, right? You know what it is. All the great stuff that matters. As against intrapersonal intelligence. And maybe this is how I'm looking at it. If you're able to perhaps link the two, perhaps you could maximize better. Would I be wrong?
So let me say this, that always seek to optimize your strengths.
Right.
Always.
Your strength. Got it.
Always seek
Got
to
it.
optimize your strengths. So I was in a church and my pastor was very task oriented, and so interpersonal skills wasn't his thing. And so whenever there was an issue, he'd say, Theodore, can you go and sort it out for me, please? Because he knew he didn't have the gift of diplomacy. He didn't have the gift of interpersonal skills. He was able to execute, but he felt he would come across with the wrong tone. So we even had to employ a junior pastor to do all the touchy-feely bits so that he could just focus and execute. And the reason why all of these intelligence are important is because with the different generations, they have different expectations. They have different motivators and drivers. Okay, and so if you're not able to attune to the different intelligences, then you will consign a whole generation to be carpenters or to be lawyers, and the musicians will not be there, and the artists will not be there. In the Bible, it says that there was a gentleman whom Moses called to design the Ark of the Covenant. Why? Because he had a gift. He had intelligence of how to carve and make things beautiful. Okay, and again, being able to identify and harness and enhance these intelligences will mean that all of us, all 33 million of us, will be playing in tune intelligently in terms of whichever intelligence we have been gifted with or we have managed to hone. And then let me come back to say that in seeking to make meaning of our lives, we are best if we harness and we optimize our personal intelligence. Otherwise, we'll be fake other people and not be true to ourselves.
Yourself. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Thank
Always
you.
a privilege.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Always a
but we are on. Next week we are back.
Yes,
next week we are back.
Yes.
Next week we are looking at business operations in an uncertain environment, opportunities and strategies.
Yes.
Looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to that. So see you next week.
See you next week.
Yeah.